There are three things in life that I think if you become more consistent, disciplined, and knowledgeable of these things, you can really control and more about your life and be a happier and healthier person. And those three things, as basic as they are, is food, sleep, and exercise. And we're going to delve into those basic ideas way deeper on some of the new information that's coming out about those three things.
Yep, today's my day to shine. I'm going to be asking the questions.
There we go.
So, first question. Which of these three things do you think is the most important?
Yeah. So as far as which one is more important, obviously there three are very important. I think you have to look at it from a beginning stage point. So sleep, food, and exercise. To say one is more important than the other can be a little difficult, but I think you really have to point towards sleep initially because that kind of starts your day. That's the beginning of the process. If your day is started off with a lack of sleep, then it's going to affect the other two a decent amount. If you're not sleeping well, there's going to be if enough hours of sleep, you're going to be directed towards having worse eating habits, or maybe you're so tired you don't want to exercise. So
Yeah.
I think to really give an answer, that it has to be sleep, but the other ones are right behind it in that sense. But you have to start with sleep. I think that's the most important.
Okay, this just popped in my head, but what could you go longer without? Sleep or food? Do you know the answer to that?
Definitely. I think it's definitely food.
Really?
Yeah. I think once you start not getting enough sleep, it gets real weird in your brain. It does. I can't remember I know I've heard stuff on people doing sleep deprivation to figure out the
Yeah,
effects of it, but I think you can go way longer without food than sleep. Once you stop sleeping,
it's
you're
bad.
wild. Yeah, you start like
Yeah.
dreaming as you're walking around, basically.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's insane. You much rather you need this. That's how important sleep is. Sleep is way more. I guess that basically justifies my answer,
Yeah,
right?
it
Based
makes
on
sense.
yeah.
And you could go forever without exercise, right?
I mean, technically, yeah. It's how big do you want to get? So right there, yeah, the perfect. There you go. That's how I should answer the question next time. Well, how long can you go without these two? Well, you can't go that long without sleep. I need to find what that duration was, or how long someone stayed asleep
Oh,
awake.
it's got to be like a week, right?
I have no idea.
Just like dead after a week.
It's up there though. It's not, but it's not like 30 days or whatever.
Okay, so if sleep is like the most important, what do we need? Like, is 6 to 8 hours? Is that the number? Is it 9 hours? What's the best number, or is it different for every person?
Yeah. So I definitely want to reference people as far as where this information is coming from on something in the sense of sleep. And I think one of the biggest reference points is Matthew Walker. I've talked about him extensively. He's got a bunch of good podcast episodes that I've listened to him talk on, and just like YouTube videos. But as far as what they believe at this point, the minimal you really should be getting is actually 7 hours. That six
Oh,
to eight, that 6 to 8 is kind of thrown out there a decent amount, but relatively 7 is the minimal. You could get 8. Once you get past a certain point, it kind of becomes okay. Well, it's just a little too much, but it also can be dependent on the person. And when I say dependent on the person, it's not, you don't, just because you're a rah person doesn't mean, oh, I only need 5. No, you still need 7 to optimize. And so it's relatively 7 is the number, the magic number of how many hours you should sleep minimally to be productive and efficient.
yeah. And then do you happen to know what happens after too much sleep? Like,
I don't know, but I know like you can't like bank sleep. So if on the weekends, if you sleep in, you can't just sleep in for 10 hours, 2 days, and the next 5 days only sleep 5. It's not like a banking system, unfortunately. That
yeah,
would be really nice. But it's more about consistency over time. And that's when you kind of get into circadian rhythm as well. And circadian rhythm being just your body really likes to be in a stable schedule of sleeping and waking up. And I'm sure you know this. Like, if you everyone kind of
mm,
knows this. If you get out of that sleep schedule or pattern, it can
it's
really mess
bad.
with you.
It's
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah. I mean, with some of the marching stuff you've done, as far as what time you wake up, I mean, how efficient do you feel if you don't get enough sleep, kind of thing?
Dude, oh my gosh. Yeah, especially depending on the activity. When I was doing my summer marching stuff, I mean, the schedule that we had was insane as far as go to bed at midnight, wake up at 7, ready to go. And just every single day, that same cycle. So it was just really important to be set on that cycle, or else it was ooh, that the rest of the day was going to be really bad.
Yeah, and I mean, sleep is the one that is not it's talked about the least, but again, we've kind of broken it down here in the sense of it's relatively the most important, but I think it's
Yeah.
talked about the least. And if you go into even if you go into like the medical field, if you think of interns or doctors when it comes to surgery or when it comes to their how they have to go through school, they have to work so many hours. They're actually lacking sleep, but it's a healthcare provider where they're getting not getting the most important thing. And I don't know who said this, but if you're going into surgery, one of the best questions to ask the person, I don't know if you could ever even ask them, just to be honest, is how many hours of sleep has the surgeon had in the past 2 days? And you're going to be better off if they had a decent amount of sleep versus, oh, I've been up for 16 hours kind of thing,
Yeah.
because they're just going to be more productive.
Can you ask them that?
No, I didn't
I
ask them that. No, I'm
no,
saying
no, no.
someone,
I know. I'm saying, can you ask them that? It just kind of feels
I don't
like
know.
I feel like they'd take offense to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you can explain it to him, it's like, well, how many hours of sleep have you had? And it's, well, I mean, I haven't had that many. Well, you're not going to be as precise as I need you to be cutting me open. So let's find another day for this, maybe, which would probably be
Yeah.
really hard too. But
Yeah. Hey, I mean, more power to you if you can do that. All right. Well, moving along here, talking about the Trinity still. What do you believe is the second most important part of this Trinity?
yeah, and we'll definitely like sleep will come back and forth with
Yeah.
this, but yeah, for sure. But we don't want to sit on sleep the whole time for that for sure. But the second most important, I think, has got to be food. And just like you said, you broke it down so well. I never thought about it that way when you said that. Well, how long can you go? You can go forever without exercise, technically. So I think food is going to be the next one, and food not in just the sense of weight loss. Like it's not just like about weight loss or how you look. Obviously, that's a component of it, but
Yeah.
also in the way you feel. And food, it affects the way that you feel, the way that you look, even the way that you age. In the sense of there's a one of my favorite doctors, Dr. David Sinclair, is a longevity doctor. He's a professor at Harvard, and they're doing a lot of research when it comes to longevity in the sense of living a longer and healthier life, not just being in your 90s just for the sake of being in your 90s, but being in
Yeah.
your 80s and 90s and being able to function better. And one of the most important things that he talks about, and I have a video later on that we're actually going to be in our little TikTok section, is less food. Just less food is more efficient at increasing your longevity, not having a high body weight. And this is more towards in the sense of people in their 20s and above. Not some of the stuff isn't directed necessarily towards kids or still developing, but just eating less is going to help out. And eating the proper foods is going to help out with your gut biome and the way that you think.
Yeah. I know that my serving sizes are awful. Just, I feel like that's such an American thing too. It's just eating as much food and the biggest serving sizes that you possibly can.
Yeah. And there's even more misconceptions about relative when I say misconceptions, there's newer information that makes it seem that it's a misconception about how many meals you should eat per day in the sense of having a happy and healthier life, or should you have snacks, or what's carbs, fats, and proteins. And in a sense, Dr. David Sinclair, when it comes to health and longevity, one of the big things is eating less. So the whole thing of you should have 3 meals a day is becoming, I guess, more and more of a misconception. Breakfast is definitely not the most important meal. Maybe for younger people, like when you wake up and you need to get going to high school, maybe not so much in college, you do need that meal. But as you get older, breakfast is definitely not the most important meal. You actually will find if you can fast and not eat breakfast, you're actually going to be able to function a little bit better with
Hmm.
mental clarity with not eating.
So you can, okay, let me get this straight. So you can function better by not eating.
Yes. So if in the morning, and this again, this is based off the stuff that I've heard him talk about. In the morning, if you, especially if you like spike your blood sugar, it's going to, you might feel like good for the first 20 to 30 minutes, but then you're going to hit a point where it's going to drag you down. So then
Yeah.
you're going to get tired faster. So then, all right, well, I need more coffee. Whereas if you
Gotcha.
just extend
Gotcha.
the period of not eating when you wake up and doing more intermittent fasting or just fasting in general, you're going to have, and it's different per person. Some people they have to take a longer practice of not eating breakfast, and they might feel that low blood sugar, and it might affect them more. But
Yeah.
yeah, in a general sense, and a general sense, it's yeah,
I
longevity when
mean,
it comes.
well, in that case, do you think like a low carb breakfast would be the best breakfast to have?
Yeah, so lower carbohydrates. Yeah, you definitely don't want to spike your insulin. You don't really want to spike your insulin in any sense, or your blood
Yeah.
sugar in any sense, where you're having a really high carbohydrate meal. But if you're waking up in the morning and starting your day off with a bowl of cereal, then it's probably going to be a little bit more problematic than if you had, a little bit of eggs and bacon kind of situation,
Gotcha.
or just egg whites and maybe one piece of toast. You don't want to just slam a bunch of sugars. It'll
Okay, that makes
ugly.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a really important question and something maybe you can talk about, but I feel like there's a lot of different types of diets out there and different types of, yeah, just ways to eat and ways to either lose weight, gain weight. What do you think are the best types of diets to go with? And, or if it even matters, right? And if it changes per person, you know?
Yeah. So the best diet when it comes to we'll just direct it towards weight loss in general. We won't talk about like longevity in this sense. The best diet is the one that you can consistently do. So it's being realistic and consistent. So one of the ways that I have a conversation with someone if they're looking for weight loss or even weight gain is, if I were to give you a drastic change, for the most part, you're going to have to change up so many habits that, or learn how to cook different meals or preparation or go to the grocery store different, that it's not going to be consistent. So you look at someone's current eating habits and you make minor changes. And then if you can stay consistent with those minor changes, then you progressively adapt them going towards the goal. That's the best way to do it, because drastic changes, they're not sustainable. And doing like a ketogenic diet or a low carbohydrate diet, I call them no fun diets, and I've talked about it before, because you just don't get to eat a lot of the fun foods, and from a lot of people, it's just hard to sustain that. So
Yeah.
small changes, a diet that you can adjust with what are you're already consuming, is the best way to look at it. There's nothing
Gotcha.
perfect for everyone, and there's not a perfect diet either, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mainly asked that too because my dad, he's been going on this crazy diet this year because he's just been unhealthy or whatever. And he cut out basically all carbs. I mean, not all carbs, but he's like anything high in carbs, not eating it. He hasn't eaten a potato this year at all. Rice, not at all. He's going crazy with that. And I just wondered if that's like a workable or usable way, you know, for someone to sustain good health.
Yeah, I mean, there are some arguments in the sense of, when it comes to eating your carbohydrates, sticking more towards eating fruits and vegetables and the benefits that that can have.
Yeah.
It's an arguable conversation to say that you should only eat fruits and vegetables. Would you be better off health wise to not eat rice or bread or potatoes versus fruits and vegetables? Kind of, in a sense. Kind of, in a sense. Like, I mean, relative, like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of. But is that something that what ends up happening? And I say kind of also because, let's say, I love pizza. I love sandwiches. I love chips. Those are the bad carbohydrates, the breads, the pastas,
Yeah. Yeah.
the deep fried chips. If I take a period of time in which I take that out of my normal, let's say I just stop eating those for a while, and I do that for 6 months. I do a really good job. But then I'm like, all right, I've lost the weight. And then what ends up happening a lot of times, you'll just go right back to it and just start slamming it. You kind of start binging it. So it can be a disciplinary thing. Wow, I just struggled so
That
hard with
was
that word.
tough. That was tough.
Disciplinary, disciplinary thing, in the sense of that. But it kind of, yes, it's leaning more towards just fruits and vegetables. You might be a little bit better off than the pastas and the rices and the bread.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was just curious about that because he has been going insane the last 11 months on this diet. I mean, he's dropped like 40, 50 pounds and he looks great. He says he feels great. So I just
Yeah.
want to make sure, I don't know, that it's actually healthy
Yeah. I
what he's
mean,
doing.
and if you go away from those things too, it actually will press you more towards eating less calories in a day. So then that's when the weight loss helps as well. There's different factors, but it's still going to, when it comes to weight loss, it's still the amount of calories you're consuming, like how many
Yeah,
calories you bring it in. If you're
gotcha.
eating the breads and the pastas, you probably eat more calories throughout the day versus just eating the fruits and vegetables kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of echoed to something you said, obviously not related to you, but he was like, I just feel better. Like this eating this way makes me feel better and I don't feel as bad. So I'm just gonna keep it up. And I guess that's sort of a key component too, is how you feel.
Yeah. Well, your gut biome, so the bacteria in your gut based on what you consistently eat. Let's say you don't eat any, like you never eat like broccoli or any vegetables, which I don't eat a lot of broccoli or vegetables. I'm just going to be honest. And then all of a sudden you throw that in your stomach. It does have a factor in the sense of how you feel. So your gut biome also affects your mental clarity and how you just think. It's almost kind of like a, not a second brain. It's a terrible way of putting it, but it kind of makes more sense in the sense of like what you put in your stomach can affect the way that you operate in a sense. So he might feel better because he is feeling better. And
Yeah.
I haven't tried to, I tried it for a couple little bit of time where I was just mainly doing fruits and vegetables and meat. And I mean, it does have an effect on you for sure, but it also depends on like what you're doing. So if you're a young athlete and you're only eating fruits and vegetables and meat, you may not be getting enough carbohydrates to do a high intensity sport. So there's different
Yeah, yeah.
variables to these questions that can get confusing. For your dad, he's I don't know if he's doing any like hard exercising.
He kind of does, but he does home improvement stuff. So
Okay.
sometimes there's some exercise in there.
Yeah. So I want to say like hard exercising is like playing a game of basketball. Like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
multiple, like that's where, well, it's hard to eat enough carbohydrates to function in that sense if you're just eating fruits and vegetables. It can be done, but it's just a little more difficult for sure.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, moving right along to the last part of the Trinity, exercise.
The least important, right?
Yeah. Should we even talk about this? Let's
No,
just
exercise is stupid. Okay, so exercise is place, and they all have a place because they're all connected in a
yeah.
sense. And we'll go back. I'm going to connect them all right now. When you look at sleep, sleep affects the foods that you look to eat. So, and they've done studies on this. If you don't get enough sleep, you're more prone to eating higher calorie dense foods or less health conscious foods because you're just like, all right, screw it, whatever. I haven't had enough sleep. It affects the way that you look and your relationship with food. And then your relationship with food affects the way that you train or that you want to train or what you want to do. If you're not eating the right foods or eating the wrong foods, you may not be able to exercise as well. Or if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to have as enough recovery. So you're going to be able to exercise as aggressively or as strong or as efficiently. So they all have this huge connection to each other. And when you start exercising more, you might lean towards having healthier habits as well. Or if you start exercising more, you might start sleeping better. Or if you start exercising more, you might have less anxiety. And the anxiety standpoint from this is I don't remember specifically. I can't remember specifically where I got this. I think this is a combination of Andrew Huberman and David Sinclair. But when you look at the lifestyles that we live now, a lot of what we live in a general basis on average as Americans is we live a comfortable lifestyle in the sense of we're not hungry
Mhm.
for long periods of time. We're not out in the cold for long periods of time. We're not hot for long periods of time. We're not running away from tigers or having to have a fight or flight stimulus on a consistent basis. So, because of that, there's a lack of stress on our bodies. So, that stress has to come out in some way, shape, or form. And that's where anxiety can be increased if you don't put stress upon the body. So, actually, doing exercise can help bring that stress level down because or the anxiety level down because you're putting stress upon your body. If you do a really, really hard workout in the morning, you're probably going to be just so worn out that like the anxiety level even comes down. And there is some research that's
Huh.
directed towards that. So you can bring those anxiety levels down through exercise, just like when you do with running. when you go out and run, you feel better after you do it. You just
Yeah.
got to do it first initially, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's also just sort of you accomplished something you wanted to go and do. At least that's kind of my mindset. Once I finish exercising or running or doing whatever, I do have a sense of accomplishment and a sense of, oh, I completed something today. No
Yeah.
matter how the rest of the day goes, like I got that done, you know?
Yeah. What was it? And I completely I disagree with this now at this point, but there's a I think it was a graduation speech at a college, and it was a Marine, and he was talking about why they make them make their beds. And in the sense of if you make your bed in the morning, it's the first thing you do, you've accomplished at least one thing. So that it puts you
Mhm.
on the track for keeping accomplishing one thing. And I think about that oftentimes when I'm making the bed. And it still just makes me super angry to make the bed, so I don't believe him. I'm actually just frustrated every time I have to go make the bed that it actually is counterintuitive, and I think about it in a different sense, and this is not advice, this is just the way I feel. It was, who's the Mavericks coach, the billionaire? What is his name?
Oh, Mark Cuban,
Mark
the
Cuban talks
owner.
about Mark Cuban goes the other direction, and I've tried to talk to Lauren at length about this, and I agree with her in the sense of it's nice to have a comfortable bed to get into when you go to sleep. But Mark Cuban, he's like, I added up the amount of time it takes to make my bed, and it doesn't really matter if I make my bed or not as far as how efficient I'm going to be, and it takes up 700 minutes of my time every year. So I just don't make my bed because of that. And I agree. And I have that feeling every single time I make the bed, but I make the bed because I do feel better when I get into bed or later on. So it's a conflicting argument in the morning. And that's the first time that I get frustrated and angry is when I
That's
have to make the
so
bed.
funny. That's so funny. My bed is currently not made.
Can't see it though, because you're in space.
That's right.
The space backgrounds, I found out they work best with the virtual backgrounds on Zoom. So for right now, we're always going to be in space. And you can see up
Floating
here,
around.
I've got an I've got Goku up here eating and
I have Snorlax sleeping, so
Snorlax sleeping. I don't care. I'm sticking to the nerdy side of who I am and who. I mean, you're kind of nerdy too, I guess. In the sense,
I
not to
am
call you a
very
nerd, but
nerdy.
yeah, stick with it. Who cares? I mean,
I'm
it's
currently playing the new Pokemon game that released, so this is
okay.
very apt.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because I do. How
Okay.
has it been? Because it's a little. I've seen some TikToks of you got the
Dude,
one where like here's the trailer and it's like really nice, cool looking game, and then it goes "Brr, brr, brr, brr," and there's just a bunch of issues going on. That's what
dude,
I've seen.
the FPS is so bad.
Oh no.
It the frame drops are so bad. I saw a streamer, um, he streamed for 16 hours straight, and when he checked his time in the game, the time in the game was 15 hours. So it had dropped an hour's worth of frames.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's nuts. But other than that, besides that frustration, is it still kind of fun or
I mean, it's fun. The graphics are kind of subpar for what they should be for a $60 game.
yeah?
But I enjoy it enough to play it. And it has a co-op version, which is the first time they've
Oh,
ever
that's a lot
done
of
that.
fun.
So
Have you been playing with Aaron on that?
yep, been playing with Aaron and my other friends. So it's
That's
been
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, no, I don't know where I heard this, but it was when it comes to doing stuff that you like being creative, one of the most important things to do is stick true to who you are. This is who I am. This is kind of
Oh yeah.
sports performance, talking about stuff that's fun. I'm going to be nerdy. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. It's just like what it is. We're in space. I've got a Goku up here. You've got Snorlax, but he's sleeping. So it makes sense. Goku's eating.
Yeah.
He's
It's on
sleeping.
theme. It's on
It's always
theme.
going to be on theme.
What's he eating?
So Goku and a lot of the anime stuff is he just eats a lot because he has
Okay.
to fight and
I mean,
whatever.
the
So I think it's like
energy. He needs his energy,
yeah.
you
So
know.
he's eating is kind of a big trope of that anime when he comes to just smacking a ton of food and they love food. All right, hormesis. So when it comes to long, I'm gonna go back to David Sinclair. Transitions hard. Turning on adversity, hormesis response in genes, we call longevity genes. So essentially, when it comes to longevity, when it comes to living longer and going into the sleep and back into the cold, the being hot or being hungry, They found out that when you have periods of being hungry, and it's not in the sense of you're starving yourself, periods of, okay, I'm hungry today, a little bit of fasting and not eating breakfast and extending those periods of not eating, it turns on hormesis, which is a response to the genes and the longevity genes that make you live longer lives. So being hungry is important. Also being cold. So that's why you see on TikTok all the time. I don't know if you see them. I see them all the time. All these cold baths going on. Have you seen a lot of that
Hmm.
stuff on TikTok?
Oh yeah.
It's become that's why a lot of that's become more popular. Is some of the research that's coming about that, not in the sense of recovering from exercise, but more in the sense of the hormesis, in the sense of extending your lifespan by putting your body through stress. And when you do that, it can bring your anxiety down. It can make you live longer in a sense.
Yeah. All the videos I've seen, they don't really explain it. They're like, take a cold bath every day. Watch the results. And it's just some super cut of a guy getting in a ice cold bath like 50 times. I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that is not controversial about some of the newer information coming out about food and longevity and health of cold temperature, hot temperature is the research they're doing to get a conclusion, to get strong evidence from when they started the research. It's going to take another 20 to 30 years when people get to that age and what's happening.
Oh, okay. That makes
That,
sense. Yeah.
but what they can do is they can do it on mice. They just have shorter lifespans. So with shorter lifespans, they can essentially do this kind of some of the same components. I don't know if they throw mice in ice baths, but
That
but
would
they
be a pretty funny experiment.
but they can manipulate their food intake a little bit. And it's actually one of the videos we'll see later on, and I'll play it later on, but I'll kind of tell what it is. They noticed no matter what foods, whether it was fats, carbohydrates, or proteins that they gave a mice, the most important factor of increasing a mouse's lifespan by 20 to 30% was just less calories. Like that was it. Just
Hmm.
less calories was increasing the lifespan of a life by 20 to 30% of a mouse. So good enough for me. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel fine if I fast. Not a big deal.
I like food though. So what do I do then?
I mean, just don't get crazy big. I don't know.
Live longer, eat more food, live longer.
These are the appropriate questions because it is true. Sleep less, play video games later. What do I do?
Now,
Uh,
I will say, how much longer are they talking? Like a year, 5 years?
I don't have a specific answer that I remember exactly, so I don't want to
Okay.
say it. But it is
Okay.
just a longer life, and when you get into your later stages of life, a higher quality. It's not just about
S-
living to 100 and like you're bedridden for 20 years. It's living to your
Yeah,
80,
yeah, yeah.
90, 100, but you're still more functioning in a sense. That's where the
Yeah.
research is going towards.
Because I think I'd take food over like 5 more years. You know what I mean?
What is the equation of food what is the equation of how many calories per year in relation to how long I live? What
See,
does that math
that's
do?
what I need to know. Give me that equation, and then we'll talk.
50,000 calories equals this amount of time. All right, let's do the math. Let's see how long I want to be around. And here we go. Just start calculating.
I like that.
That's the research in mathematics that we need to know. Maybe we can DM him and they can start working on that. I mean, you never know.
Now I gotta ask. This is a trinity, okay? I get it. It's a triangle. It's
Yeah,
all
there's three
encompassed,
things.
closed. There's three things. But if there was a fourth thing, what do you think it would be?
It's a great question. And the fourth thing, I think, I think it kicks off of all of them, and that is, I would say, relationships, in the sense of family members, relationships with significant others, and friends. I think relationships, and that's a layered subject in itself, just like all the other ones. Because when I say relationships, it's also being directed towards psychology, but
Yeah.
also directed towards of how to communicate with people and how to develop a relationship that is healthy and having that communication. So I think the fourth would be relationships. And the reason that it's not in the three is because the three affect relationships in the sense of maybe not in so much food, but when you feel better about yourself as an individual, and that's why these are more individual components. When you feel better about yourself as an individual through these three things, then you tend to typically have better relationships with other people in that sense. So
Yeah.
I think that'd be number four is relationships.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And
I mean, I could see how it works. Yeah.
well, I think, I mean, you think about it from a school standpoint and a school standpoint of relationships. How often in school are we taught to how to communicate with sorry communicate with people? It's not really there. And as we've gotten further into technology and information that's out there, people are starting to become more apparent of mental health and how, as a parent, you can affect your kids or trauma as a kid or as a friend or significant other, how to communicate with them to make them like love languages and things along those lines. I think it's really important and it can have a huge effect on your life as a if you're a parent or if you're a kid.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me. I think if I was going to add a fourth one, I feel like it would be like mental health or something along those lines. Like, I think relationships kind of also tie into that,
Yeah.
but just, yeah, mentally and psychologically where you're at with your relationship to these three items, these
Yeah.
three things.
No, I would definitely. Yeah. I can almost agree with that even more. Maybe it is more mental health, but mental health in the sense of how do you
The
operate?
totality of that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you operate this brain that is this crazy supercomputer in the sense of
Yeah.
going through it? And the older you get, the more you like self talk, like how you're talking to yourself,
Yeah.
whenever someone's talking to you or a relationship you have with someone, if it's something negative, how that affects you
Yeah.
and navigating that. And I think the more that you navigate this, I saw a TikTok on this the other day. You're always talking about the one thing you don't think about when you get into therapy and you start getting all this stuff out about yourself and the things that happened in your past is that you start realizing that the problem isn't you when you go out into therapy, that now you have therapy, you've helped out. Now the people that don't have therapy are like, oh, you need therapy kind of thing. So then now you're like, you're navigating that. So it's like, okay, guess they don't tell you. But yeah, no, mental health and navigating, yeah, first it's something that more information, just like we're talking more information about the topics, these three things, and putting that into your everyday life can really affect everything.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a few names of people that you've looked up, and I guess now would be a good chance to list out those people that we can find more information about.
Yeah, I think that so there's the big three for sure, and they're all over. I mean, they're everywhere. I think at this point, they both have podcasts. I know two of them have podcasts. Dr. David Sinclair, he's more of the longevity expert. Andrew Huberman, we haven't talked a lot about him. He's a neurobiologist from Stanford. So he would be more of the mental health components in the
Okay.
sense of neuroplasticity, your ability to kind of rewire your brain and the stuff and behaviors that you do. So when you look at like behavioral change, one of the big things that a doctor will say to you when you go to the doctor is like, okay, you're a little bit overweight, you're not in the best health right now, so let's you need to diet and exercise. And it's such a loaded, ridiculous question. In all honesty, it really is. It's like, diet and exercise. It's like, well, you're just yeah, but what do I need to do? What more information do I need? And sleep isn't talked about at all. And we said it's the most important, but it's not talked about at all. But Andrew Huberman talks about a lot of the cognitive things that you can do or daily task components that you can do to become more in control of your brain. And basically, it's just just better mental health, essentially.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to actually look any of this up.
I would say the first one, if you actually really, if you wanted to get into this, the one that's the most like, it's like the mini series basically, because Andrew Huberman has his own podcast where, I mean, he's got tons and tons of episodes that you could obviously listen to them, but they're more spread out about maybe the information that you're trying to get a quick grab on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would say the best place to start would be Lifespan with David Sinclair. Like it's 8 episodes. Every single one of them has just loaded with information that I've kind of talked about here. He does a lot better job, but it's a great one. The Lifespan with David Sinclair is the best place to start, I think, for sure.
Nice. That's cool. I'll have to check it out. What's it on? Do you know?
I think it's on Apple. It might be on Spotify. I think it's. I know it's just audio. I don't think it's video, but I know it's.
Okay.
I listen to it on Apple Music. I think I don't know.
Cool.
It's on Spotify. Okay, I don't think I have any more on any of this stuff.
Yep. Brandon has run out of information.
I've ran out of information. I do. This is the one bit of information I want to throw in at the end, and then we're gonna
Oh,
go to the
all right.
TikToks. We have our
It's got
TikToks to
one
do,
more piece.
and I'm just gonna read. I just copy and pasted this down, so I'm just gonna read straight off the page here. On average, U.S. medical schools offer only 19.6 hours of nutrition education across 4 years of medical school, according to a 2010 report in Academic Medicine. In a 2016 study, researchers at Case Western Reserve University examined data from 25 family medicine, internal medicine, and OBGYN medical residency programs throughout Ohio. What they found is that these programs averaged 2.8 hours of instruction on obesity, nutrition, and physical activity counseling, and only 40% of them, 42% of them taught the residents techniques for how to perform health behavioral counseling. And then in the medical field, they only spend about 3 hours learning about sleep. And the reason that I bring this up, not to take anything away from doctors or the healthcare industry, I don't feel like that's a lot of time spent into the three most important things that a doctor could give information to. Not that it's their job to give information to, but it's basically saying if you look at your doctor to give you the information that you need to fix maybe some of the problems you have going on in your life, physically or mentally, it's probably going to be directed maybe towards some of the guys that we've talked about today. They're going to give you more information because that is their job. A doctor's
Yeah.
job is kind of not necessarily preventative, as nice as it should be. Dr. David Sinclair talks about that a lot. When you go to the doctor, he actually tells a story. He goes to the doctor and he's in his 50s. And he goes in, do checkups, do blood work. He's like, you look great, everything's good. And he's like, well, is that it? And he's like, yeah. Doctor doesn't really know anything about him. They're not doing any preventative situations. So he's like, well, what
Yeah.
about a prostate exam, or not a prostate exam, but some kind of exam? And he's like, well, are you having any symptoms? No. Do you have any family history? No. Okay, well, we're not going to do that. He's like, well, I could still definitely have it. So
Yeah.
preventative care starts with food, exercise, and sleep of keeping
Yeah.
you healthy.
That makes sense. It does seem like the doctor and most primary care is reactionary.
Right.
So to whatever you're feeling or whatever's going on, they're reacting to what you tell them based on
Yeah.
being proactive, like you said.
Right. Which is their job. That is their job. And
Yeah.
I think there is a perception that it's their job to fix you, but you don't even want to go to them. Basically, is what you want to try to do. You start beforehand with
Yeah.
as best as possible, and it comes through these three: food, sleep, and exercise. And knowing more about them, becoming knowledgeable, and implementing them in your life on a consistent basis through behavioral change, not just go diet and exercise kind of thing, kind of a blanketed story. Okay. We have a really fun and interesting episode coming up on the podcast. And if you want to be a part of it, simply search Edge Sports Performance on Instagram. We're going to be putting some polls up, asking some questions that will be a part of an episode coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun. That Cole, we're going to play a game with, and Lauren's going to kind of be a host of. So make sure you go check out Edge Sports Performance on Instagram. If you're on the YouTube channel, this is our second episode out on the YouTube channel. Thank you. If you're not, please go subscribe to the channel and help us out. If you're on Apple Music or Spotify, also leave a review. Thank you. Now back to the episode. All right, Cole and I, Lauren and Aaron are playing pickleball on Saturday. Super stoked. Never played it. It's kind of a
Let's go.
I'm really excited. And what I want to do, and I don't think Lauren will listen to this episode beforehand. I kind of want to go out and just get a ridiculous outfit, like a ridiculous pickleball, like the whole, like I want to get some like sweatbands, a head, like we could do matching ones.
I
And
like
we
this.
just pack it into a bag, and then I bring my backpack with me. You bring it back. Don't put it on yet. And then
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
go to the
yeah.
bathroom real quick, and then we put it on and come out.
Just sleeve up, you know.
It could be worth it.
I'm in.
Just like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we could even. I mean, I don't know how expensive. I think it's too expensive to throw a joke out, but like the New Balance shoes, the whole thing, like pink Hawaiian shirt, like crazy is when I'm going
I
full
like
bore.
this. Or
Okay.
let's just go to Goodwill. Just pick out a ridiculous fit, you know.
We could all four do that. That
I
could be
know.
the pre. Oh man. It could be fun. All right, to the TikToks, even more fun stuff here. But do Cole has probably not. I don't even. You don't know. I sent you some of these. Some of these I didn't send you. So I always kind of curate and not curate stuff. All right, boom.
I know you've been sending me TikToks, and I love it.
Yeah, well, it was for this part of the episode. So I was like, here we go. Scooch us down here.
Sorry, we needed a really catchy chorus melody. Oh my god! Oh my god. Jack, play that back again.
Oh my gosh.
It's a terrible sound.
Now play it back. Yeah. Arnetta, bring back in those trumpets. And Chris, the drums.
I wanted to put that in there because I thought it might anger you. Well, I'm still playing.
It's just such. God, musicians are the worst. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I don't think that's where they got the original idea to make that part of the song, but they threw that together for their little show, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where they got it from. It's like, I don't know if he's your favorite. He's definitely interesting to me. What is it? Is it Charlie Puth that always has like
he's interesting.
The perfect pitch guy?
Oh yeah.
He was on the Graham Norton show, and he brings out this like little keyboard, and he's talking about. I mean, it's almost kind of cheesy just because of the fact that he's like, I love music so much, which is fine. Like a passionate person, that's great. But he's like, I was in the car on the ride over here, and when you hear the tone from the closing the door, and it goes bing, bing, like when the doors open, the keys are in.
Yeah.
And then he like makes a song out of the stuff he heard on the car ride over, and it's like it's really neat. But maybe I just see too many of his videos where I'm like, all right, dude, put it up,
No, everyone feels that way.
Okay. In the like music world, is that kind of how you guys feel?
I don't know. It's just it's gimmicky. It's kind of stupid, and the songs that he makes are super, like
soundboardy.
Yeah, and they're just like industry blah music.
No, I get it.
I don't know. Not to dumb down, because here's the thing: he does have a gift. He does have something that a lot of people can't do.
Yeah.
As far as like making music, and then perfect pitch is an incredible ability, but he's kind of trivialized it a little bit. So
yeah, it's interesting, but at a certain point, it's like, hang it up, dude. It is. I get what you're saying. It's gimmicky. It's just like, well, you can't every single time do a video like, I don't know. Yeah, I got you.
It's very gimmicky.
World Cup time. Haven't watched any, but this was a cool little story.
And left their changing room after their massive win against Germany. In all of their celebration, they still swept the floor, folded their clothes, sorted the litter into neat piles, opened the windows for ventilation, and in a delightful touch, the Japanese players and staff even left origami swans and a thank you note in Japanese and Arabic. This is...
Oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Different cultures. I think they even cleaned the stadium after they won the game. Like they a lot of the fans that cleaned.
Oh, I did see that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
which is crazy.
I did see that.
I think they're pretty known for that. But I think it's a cool little lighthearted story from the World Cup.
Like,
have you watched the World Cup yet?
A little bit. I've seen it in passing here and there whenever my parents have it on, or it's just on, Yeah, but I feel like that actually gives me faith in humanity in the world.
Faith in humanity.
No, but as far as soccer, I've seen highlights of a couple games. So you're a soccer player, though. Have you been watching?
It's such a weird thing to pop up on the screen right now.
Yeah, I know.
Trust me, it's not because he's in a robe, but it's what he says. Soccer, yes.
Play.
Yesterday, Elon Musk confirmed that if both Apple and Google, the App Store and Google Play, take Twitter off their platforms, that he will not only build his own.
In hindsight of this being on my computer, I realized how creepy this guy is, just like laying in a robe.
It's something.
What he's saying. I didn't really think about it. And I don't.
On phone, but also compete with the big boys. And that tells me one thing. Elon Musk expected this to happen, and it was his plan the entire time. And what we're going to see is an integration of Starlink and Neuralink into his new phone, which he will be building. Elon Musk is taking on the establishment, and he's going to change everything for the better. He is literally Iron Man in 2022.
I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think he did it on purpose. But one of the things about I was talking to Lauren about this last night because I saw this video and I showed her. But one of the things about the phones, and this is going to get a little more serious than what he's talking about, is when you look at, as sad as enough it is, when you look at an iPhone, where they have to mine some of the materials and curate these phones, it's not in the best situations for the people doing it. And it's something Elon Musk has talked about and starting up his own phone company that's in the States that is more regulated in the sense of where they get the materials. And some of the materials are obviously a little bit rarer than the other ones, but and getting away from having a phone that's maybe not the most ethically sourced in that sense. And that's where I was like, okay, that's kind of, that could, if it is true, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I wasn't even really thinking about that side of it. And that's, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a noble cause for sure.
Yeah. But him making his own phone, I've seen people just make renditions of what it would look like, and it's like a Tesla phone. It looked pretty cool, but I mean, to have enough engineers to get to the point of where like Apple is or whatnot, I mean,
yeah,
it'd be a fun one.
I think he's a crazy person in general, though. So
there's definitely some crazy things about him that I would agree with. All right, here's the man himself that I've talked about way too many times. This is Dr. David Sinclair in the video that I talked about earlier. Get away, dude. Uh-oh, get this guy off here. Bye. Okay.
Eat less often. What's more important than what you eat is when you eat. One of my friends at the NIH, he studied 10,000 mice, and what he tried to figure out was, is there a diet that makes them live longer? And he mixed combinations of carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and was hoping to see finally what works. He found out they all had short lifespans, but there was one group where he only gave them the food 2 hours a day instead of all throughout the day, and they lived about 20 to 30% longer.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So you're saying, wait, here we go. What if I only eat all my food for the day in like a 1 hour span? Can I eat more food?
No. It's still like total calorie consumption. Like total calorie consumption is going to have an effect as well. But when you eat so like intermittent fasting, for example, so that's a good way. So intermittent fasting is you don't eat for 16, you eat for 8. When you have on average, when you have a smaller window to consume calories, you're probably going to consume less because
that makes sense.
And it's still about the total calorie intake when it comes to weight loss. So
all right,
if you did, I mean, you don't want to go that. I think if you go that crazy where it's just like one meal a day, it's a slippery slope because it's hard to just eat one meal a day. I think Dr. David Sinclair is more of like a 2 meal a day. It's like lunch, dinner, that's it, which I do very often as well.
I mean, that's pretty much what I do, except I have a snack after dinner. So I guess I got to cut that out.
No, I mean, late night snack, yes.
Do you believe that only the Earth is flat, Ben? Because, like, what about the other planets? Are we really going to explore?
This is where it gets complicated.
He was like, uh-oh. There was no more to that video, but flat Earth. What about the other planets? Well, this is where it gets complicated. I wish you would have heard the
you know that discussion went on for another hour.
It's like the discussion in Bachelor in Paradise. Too bad now we're going to a different show now, but Bachelor in Paradise, the whole argument of how an itch is low level pain.
Oh my God, dude. Maybe there's a study. Maybe he's right.
But you don't agree that an itch is low level pain?
No, not like personally.
Are we gonna have to open up this argument as well together?
I'm just kidding. We are.
I don't know if it's low level pain.
You think it is?
I think it kind of, it's like like low. I mean, I don't know if, so the way you would know, I mean, we could look at, I'm not going to look it up. Maybe I'll look it up later and we'll come back to the next episode. But essentially, if it's the same receptors, then you
Hey,
could,
that makes sense.
but I don't know. I don't know.
But I'm sure scientifically it probably is. I just feel like it isn't.
Yeah.
It's low level pain once I start scratching it. Yeah.
I don't know what receptors it is, but I'm sure you could actually find an answer to the question. We could Google it. I'm sure plenty of people have Googled it since that episode on The Bachelorette with the
Probably.
Bachelor in
Yeah.
Paradise, where they were talking about that. All right, we've got 2 more here. Let's go with.
Are they on topic or off topic? Sorry, I'm yawning.
It's okay. This one's completely off topic.
All right, good.
And I don't know if people don't know how the stormtroopers actually talk, but they are rigged up with these like computer chips on their hands, and they're motion activated. So your wrist will, if you spin your wrist or if you close it, they actually will activate a whole different set of gestures on the the positive expressions or the negative expressions. And that's why the stormtroopers are very animated, because they're actually activating different gestures within their costumes. So Kylo does that, stormtroopers do it, Boba Fett does it, and that's why you see a lot of those really heavy hand pulls. They almost look like they're being stage actors.
Yeah.
But you have to be, you got to be on it. If people are coming up and trying to have a conversation with you, hey, are you going to do this? And the stormtroopers go, we're watching you. You see them do it. So they have to be thinking all the time. It's certainly a performance. It is.
And if you're just watching, he's talking about the stormtroopers like in Disney World when like they're walking around in Kylo Ren. I don't know why they just wouldn't have a voice modulator versus like knowing the hand techniques or whatever to do that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because in the movies and stuff, all those stormtroopers have the same voice.
Yeah, but couldn't you just have like a voice like? Well, I guess you could. No, you might be right. I don't know if you
Because
could.
people would have little accents or dialects that they would add, and I don't
hard.
think you could. I don't think you could just get rid of that.
Okay, well that makes a ton of sense now because yeah, so they have the same. They're clones, so they have the same voice. Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right, last one here on topic of the World Cup.
Still a lot of work though.
Yeah, to be able to do all those hand gestures appropriately and get them correct. This is kind of out of frame, but it's crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean the amount of people he had to thread through to that goal. So again, if you're just listening, and I when I picked out the videos this week, I tried to make sure it was mostly like audio where you didn't have to actually watch it; you could just listen.
Except for this one.
Yeah. Lionel Messi has a crazy goal that just has a visual view of it. One more time.
Yeah.
Oh,
pretty crazy.
Not the third time. Yeah, it's some of the goals have been pretty crazy this World Cup.
Yeah. So
sure.
World Cup, is that what you would watch?
If I had to pick a sport, I would say World Cup is up there, and the number one. I think I like watching volleyball. I don't know. I think it's just like such faster pace, and I think it gets intense. I think volleyball and World Cup soccer would be my number one.
Okay.
I also like how volleyball games aren't like incredibly long too. Like it's not a long period of time. We're actually gonna go watch U of L, I think, soon.
I was gonna ask if you were going to that too.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make the Thursday one, but if they make it to Saturday, I should be able to make it. The Thursday one, I work pretty late. I work till 8:00. But yeah, volleyball or soccer. I was actually messing with one of my athletes the other day on why watching sports is stupid. And I was messing with her. I made a pretty good argument, and then she made a pretty good rebuttal argument back. So I was like, "That's perfect. That's what it should be. Don't listen to me. What do I know? I don't know. I just like to talk trash sometimes for fun and make you think." All right, Trinity of Health, food, exercise, sleep. Go check out those other guys as well. They have a ton of information that can potentially help you out and change the way that you look at life or to change the way you operate through life. We are out. Bye.
Bye.
We're gonna do this. This messed up last time, so we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna be quiet. You're gonna say bye, and then you're gonna wave because the wave didn't come through because it wasn't on you when you did it. So I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Bye.
Got it. All right, perfect.